Are you lost in a new patch? So am I. So today we're gonna watch the maestro MaxPax himself play, and I'm gonna try to commentate and analyze what's going on. So first things first, you actually need to chrono boost your Nexus at the start of the game at approximately 7 or 8 seconds depending on the map. If you chrono boost too early, of course you will not have enough minerals to make the next worker, and if you make it later than 8 seconds, then your build is just a bit less optimized basically. So your pylon should go down at 12, right? So you have still one worker in the bank to make, and then the pylon will be finished, and then you can get the extra supply from the pylon. The one thing that's a bit annoying on this new patch is that your Nexus provides less supply, and later in the game, later on, you have a good supply block that's pretty common at 42, because usually you're supposed to be at 46 or 8, I don't know, but higher than that at least. So yeah, it's a bit annoying. So 14 gateway and then 15 gas, and then you will keep your energy on your Nexus. You don't really need to spend it, so 15 gas it is. So on this map there's actually a very funny feature. It's like some kind of subway, right? The subway where you can actually go straight around the map, and only workers can go on this path, so it's very map specific. And on this map you can spawn actually in 3 different locations. So yeah, he was actually lucky to find his opponent right away. So no racks, CC first, isn't it? Yeah, so you see there's no gas, there's no barracks when the gateway is about to finish, so obviously it's a proxy, it's a command center. So you see MaxPax has 15 dudes on the minerals, and then finally adds two guys to the gas. So really putting the emphasis on the minerals. It's probably specific to this specific build, right? Command center. So MaxPax decides to react as a zealot. He knows there won't be any Reaper, so he's going to be able to deal some damage most likely. So he's stuck at 21 supply. Yeah, he made a bottom pylon, so that now he's gonna release the supply. Now the core should finish, but first you get the Nexus. Okay, so he cuts workers a little bit, so he has enough resources to actually queue his first adept. I think it should be an adept. Yeah, there it is, chrono boost the adept. The probe can stick around longer because, of course, there's no marine, it's a CC first, so you can stick around longer and deal damage on the SCVs. The idea is to delay the CC as much as possible so that when the Zealot arrives, potentially you could delay it more, but I think it's going to be very tight. I don't think it should be... I don't think it should be able to actually deny the CC altogether. I think the CC is going to finish very on time. So you chrono boost the second adept. So now he just spends 2 chrono boosts on his adepts, which means he's pretty committed. He really wants to deal damage. You would otherwise spend this energy on your Nexus energy, so you don't want to commit too much with the Zealot because you don't have the support of the Adept as of now. Just a small pool of worker, and now that MaxPax is at full saturation in his main, he's just going to transfer his mineral line. I mean his rally point. There you go. He's gonna be able to deny his little depot. I think you should get a second gate very soon as MaxPax, right? When he's busy microing. Can get a worker, that's very nice. And his micro is very good. So Nexus finishes. I think we gotta chrono boost the economy, right? He's a bit busy dealing with that, but I think we should go home and definitely chrono boost the Nexus. I think it's the call. He's dealing really a shit ton of damage. He's gonna kill maybe one more SCV towards the left. There you go. He's gonna focus the Marines. Okay, interesting. There's one SCV that's in the orange. There you go. You actually get the second gate. I'm surprised there's no chrono boost on the economy. There you go. Finally, chrono boost on Nexus. So he queues Blink, second gate. So far it's relatively the same opener, right? You can't really focus on the timer or the supply anymore, but you have the same order, roughly speaking. So you have to stick with that, right? To understand the logic and the pace of the build. Now you should get your robo, right? You have about 100 gas, basically. So instead of following the timer or supply, you follow the order, you follow the resources, basically. You make the stuff when you have it. This is why it's way more important to understand how a build works, rather than just trying to stupidly say, oh, I have to do this because that's the build. No, you have to understand why things are done, so that when the game becomes a bit messed up like this, you can still know what to do next because you understood, you managed to understand how the build actually flows. So right now only 2 gates for MaxPax. It actually is gonna pay 50-50 to turn his gateways into warp gates, and it's gonna add 2 extra gates. So it seems like MaxPax is going to go for a 4-gate blink, which is a build they used to adore, to say the least. But is gonna have to tank the price of the warp gate. So 4 gateways in total turn into warp gates, gonna cost a total of 100 gas and 100 minerals. Which is, I mean, minerals you don't care as much, but 100 gas is quite something. You know, it's 2 stalkers worth of value. You can see stacking extra geyser actually to be able to afford all of that. So it makes the build a bit weaker for sure, but looks like MaxPax doesn't really want to change his plan as a whole. It's just gonna accept that his build will be nerfed because of the warp gate change. So yeah, I think you should get the Nexus and then you warp in. How do you do it as MaxPax? Do you prioritize the aggression or you prioritize the Nexus? I think he wants to warp in actually. I think he's gonna warp in first, isn't he? It seems to be slightly hesitant, perhaps. Of course, you play on a new patch, so you don't exactly know what to do, so he's gonna warp in his Stalkers first. Okay, not gonna be able to accomplish much of anything. I think Nexus should go down, there you go. Now you really want to resume pro production right now as MaxPax, of course, so you can actually get some workers going. There's a Cyclone in the main. I mean, it's gonna be rough to deal damage, isn't it? I think you need one more warp in of Stalkers. Maybe you can bust the tanks at the front. Oh, especially if he's on sieges. I think MaxPax maybe could have gone for it. Yeah, definitely snipe the tank here. This is a bit of a mistake by the Terran. I'm not sure why he's trying to siege his tank so offensively. It was a bit of a mistake. Could be a bit costly. Now MaxPax can actually gain some terrain and deal some damage. And the Cyclone is out of position too. The Cyclone was perfectly positioned beforehand. And now MaxPax has free reign on the workers in the main. You snipe 3 or 4 SCV, which is quite nice. Of course, 4 Stalkers will be able to one-shot a Marine without shields and one-shot an SCV. So it's the magic number. It fits exactly in the Warp Prism. So I would suspect maybe Robo Bay in this game because you are on 3 geysers, right? So yeah, there you go. Robo Bay goes down. Okay, oh, he was gonna get a 4th, but he wants to prioritize going to 8 gateways first and foremost. And the 3rd base has finished. I think we're gonna chrono boost the economy a little bit. There you go. So you really want to chrono boost your economy at the beginning, right? When your bases have little worker, then you chrono boost as hard as you can so that you can rapidly get tons of economy, and then you slow the production down so you can get your gateways, Robo Bay, Fort, and so on. You need to chrono boost aggressively at the beginning when the base show up, right? So there's a compound effect and the probes pay off for themselves as fast as possible, right? So it looks like MaxPax really doesn't want to play with the new gateway style, with the new gateway that builds units quicker, just doesn't care. He wants to stick with what he knows best, and he's just gonna accept that it got nerfed, basically. He's just gonna accept the fact that you have to pay for warp gates now. So he has 4 gateways in his main that are yet to be transformed. So okay, yeah, hotkeyed. Yeah, you can see in 0 it just hotkeyed his gateways and warp gates. It's finally turning his buildings into warp gates. He was actually waiting for the money because he probably wanted to queue +1 attack and other upgrades like the maybe range. Does he have charge? He must have research charge, right? So now you can see MaxPax has 1 Stalker on each side to be able to spot, well, Banshees, drops, you name it. There's Warp Prism providing vision on the other side. So now that the Terran is on the map, you can actually, and you should, counterattack with your Warp Prism. So you can actually deal some damage. It's absolutely pointless to counterattack when your opponent is at home, right? You only counterattack when your opponent leaves his base. Otherwise, well, the units are already there in position, ready to defend. So MaxPax's fort has been denied, and this matchup you really want to be up in economy, especially now that you have to invest a little more into warp gates. So I think Terran should be only on 2 bases as of now. I didn't see a 3rd CC, maybe I just missed it. It's a possibility. So MaxPax saw the drop at the north of the map, of course, because he denied his base. So he's gonna send a little group of units at the north just to see if the drop is still there or not. 2 Vikings in position, which means his prism is not gonna live for very long. Okay, nice target fire. You see the Terran automatically targeted the Stalker so that his Medivacs could fly away. That's a very good move by the Terran. I don't know, once again, who he's playing against, but 6.4 barcode has to be Bunny, Maru, Beyond. I mean, a very good Korean player. So I don't know which one it is actually. Okay, so you actually want to get rid of... These Marines still don't have shields, actually. I'm quite surprised about that. So tanks are on the way. Ah, we just warped... Oh, the mines are gonna go down. So he just warped in extra stalkers, while his opponent is playing mostly tank heavy. Well, maybe not heavy, but it's actually invested in quite a few tanks. So you want to have maybe a bit less stalkers and more zealots. Of course, zealots very good at dealing with tanks. They're gonna cause friendly fire potential on the Marines. Then again, Terrans at this level usually will target the Colossus. So there's still a drop around, so as MaxPax you kinda need to leave some stalkers out there. You would love to have the information of whether or not the Marines have left the position so that you could potentially bring the stalkers into the main fight. That being said, MaxPax has been outmining this Terran opponent for a long time. So now, I don't know the Terran supply, but I think MaxPax has more. I'm not sure about the upgrades either. Sometimes it's a good idea to actually attack right when an upgrade finishes. The Marines are still around, so I think now MaxPax with his stalker gun should be able to jump on the Marines and just kill them. Yeah, this medivac is dead. There you go. Nicely done. Very nicely done, which means now he's going to be able to actually get rid of that, and then he will be able to basically F2, bring everything to the front, and try maybe to try his luck to see if he can finish the game. At the very least, try to prevent his opponent from mining freely on a third, or even take a fourth for that matter. MaxPax, you see, he's still expanding very aggressively. That's the mistake a lot of people make. They think, oh, I'm doing okay economically. Right now we're on same income and I'm just waiting for my opponent to make a move. No, no, keep on expanding, keep on going. So now we have no Prism as MaxPax. That's a little bit dangerous. He has a very good army. There's very few Vikings, so he's not going to be able to deal with the Colossus, which is a very good thing for MaxPax. But the lack of War Prism, of course, makes reinforcing a bit more difficult. There's a bit of a counterattack, of course, because every time you attack at the front as MaxPax, the Terran army is forced to be in position to receive the Protoss army. This is when just a couple zealots coming from the left-hand side can actually deal some damage, and of course force attention, because attention is a very valuable resource in this game. Every time your screen is on, for example, your army, it's not doing something else, and if you have to deal with two locations at once, especially when there's a big danger in the form of zealots or a big army at the front, you're potentially losing on one front. This is why it's so good as the attacker to attack several locations at once. And as a defender, it's also important to counterattack, to force attention away from your opponent and force a reaction, because if there's no reaction, it's gonna lose the mirror line, right? So very important to use that as much as possible. Third War Prism is gonna go down the main, really, the well-positioned Vikings. This army at the front is very good, so I don't really know the upgrades of the Terran opponent, but right now we have no Vikings whatsoever in position to receive that, and I think it's just gonna be it. MaxPax is just gonna YOLO his way in, and even if he's not able to finish the game, even if he overstays, he's welcome. MaxPax is on 5 mining bases. This Terran has just lost a couple ACVs to the attack, and overall, if this tendency, if this trend goes on, MaxPax is still gonna be able to always produce more and more. If you trade even a bit worse, like imagine you trade 10% worse, but you mine 20-25% more, you can more than afford this worse trade. And eventually, because you're mining more, the resources of your opponents is gonna, like, the bases will dry out while you still keep on mining. Keep in mind, on this new patch, though, there's more resources on the bases, so bases last longer. So if you want to actually win the game with this kind of style, you need to keep the pressure longer than what you're used to. So as the defender, you have a little bit more of an advantage compared to before. You can see a funny animation on the EMP turning the Colossus bluish. It's been implemented in the game. Well, at least we've got that going, I suppose. I wish I knew the upgrades of both players. Well, MaxPax is obviously aware, but maybe 2-1, something along those lines. Of course, Dark Shrine is going to be useful at the later stages of the map, especially of the match, especially when the Terran is trying to take a fourth, because then you can potentially use DT Blink to snipe the PF, because the Terran is trying to spread himself very thin, right? So right now MaxPax is just keeping the expansion going, and every time he reaches 200 supply, he tries to trade, because he knows he's got more money coming in, so he's fine to trade even worse, because he's just mining way more, so he can afford it, right? But his opponent will not be able to afford that too much. I kind of wish we had a War Prison with this army, at least at the back, perhaps, or just a pylon, because you don't even need a pylon attached to a gateway anymore. You just need a pylon. Now you can have a fast warping. This is probably something that MaxPax will do in the future, but he just probably doesn't think about it because, well, he's already playing at a very high speed, so probably muscle memory is taking over at this point. So you see, he took a bit of a beating here. I think having maybe a proxy pylon would have helped in terms of reinforcements. But now, this is the point where the Terran is pretty much all in. Doesn't have much economy in the bank. It's 3 bases, right? This is all he's got. But he's got a very strong army. So if MaxPax is able to hold on for a little while longer, he should be fine just because he's so damn rich. And even if he loses his natural, that's okay because he's got bases everywhere. And even then, MaxPax still counterattacks, right? You can see the action on your screen, but look at your minimap. There are a few zealots coming towards the 3rd base of the Terran, and there's also a DT that has been queued towards the natural, right? Always to deal damage back to your opponent, always strike back. Do not always be there and just suffer the damage. Put the emphasis also on giving back, punching back, and the attention is also gonna diminish towards the front because the Terran opponent needs to deal with that. So he needs to get his screen back to his natural 3rd, box his SCVs away, bring some units, and all these actions are less actions to micro against you at the front. So this is why we say the best defense is offense. It's actually very true in this game. So I think this Terran would have been dead a long time ago in the previous patch because the main would have completely, the main and natural, both bases would have run out completely out of resources at this point at 16 minutes into the game. I still believe this Terran is still pretty damn dead. This is probably why MaxPax is YOLOing, is thinking, well, how about you leave my game, bruv? But, yeah, there you go. I mean, I'm not sure who the Terran was, very good opponent, but, yeah, MaxPax just keeps on playing just like before, actually doesn't care too much. We're gonna hop into another matchup. My RTS Dojo is a website that I've created with Elaser and Spirit, where you can find tons of different strategies, builds, and tips on how to improve for all 3 races, Zerg, Terran, and Protoss. If you're watching me, you're probably watching Protoss content, so here I've made, for example, how to learn new maps like a pro, and I'm gonna make soon new strategies and builds for the new patch, especially the 8-worker start. So if you wanna learn new builds and improve and get some fun in Starcraft 2, my RTS Dojo is where it's at. Alright boys and girls, it's going to be MaxPax against Elaser, so it's going to be an amazing game. Well, I have no clue if it's going to be an amazing game. Maybe it's going to be a shitty one. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that we have a great opponent on our hands in Elaser. Right now at 6.5k MMR, so very, very high on the ladder nowadays. And I'm very curious to see how he's going to play on this patch because personally, I found that PvZ is probably the worst matchup for me because when it comes to PvP, both players have the same problems. Against Terran, on the other hand, well, I just play like I played before and just accept that it's a bit worse. But against Zerg, not only they have more larvas, I think early pools are much better than it used to be before. But yeah, the warp gate change makes aggression so much worse. And I would love to see how MaxPax approaches this matchup in particular. So you can see on your minimap right now, MaxPax has decided to send an early probe to patrol in the natural of Laser to try and block this hatchery. So the drone went towards the 3rd, so MaxPax now has 2 choices. Either he checks for the 3rd, either he goes for the main to confirm whether or not there's an early pool. So there's a lot of drones, so it's impossible that there's an early pool. You can also pay close attention to the larvas next to the hatchery. When there's a pool, early pool, or somewhat early at least, always pay close attention to the larvas. If your Zerg opponent is stacking larvas and not making anything with them, and the moment the pool finishes, shoop, they alter into cocoons, it's a dead giveaway that your opponent is making 6 Zerglings at once. So you have to pay attention to this. So in this patch you also have less workers, of course, so it means that worker micro in the early game is going to matter more. Putting your workers in the closest mineral patches on your side of the map is going to provide more income, and it's going to be more significant because you have less workers to work with. But also this little worker harassment that you can do if your APM allows it. I know it's very difficult to keep on going with your build, especially when you learn new strategies, because it's not completely embedded into your muscle memory. But this little worker harassment like this is going to matter just a tiny bit more than before. So, and these things, of course, make the difference at the very high level. So, Adept on the menu, chrono boosted of course, because the Zerg has been forced to take the third base location. It means that MaxPax will be able to have adepts in between the two bases, making reinforcing with drones more difficult, and of course enabling him to threaten two bases at once. So we still go for the Stargate like we used to do before. We're gonna commit a second chrono boost to your gateway, which means MaxPax really want to get something done. Right, it's not random to just spend 2 chrono boost on your gateway, right? You would rather spend this energy on your economy if you'd like to, but if you commit on the gateway, it means you really have to get stuff done. And of course, MaxPax with his micro is certainly able to get lots of damage done. So you can see he shades towards the left to threaten the left side, but his adept remains on the right, so he can threaten both locations. And for the Zerg, it's very difficult to actually be able to measure because you don't have that many Zerglings to work with. Oh, that's a great round. You don't have that many units, and now that you have both adepts, maybe you can go for it. There you go. He goes for it. He's gonna have the one-shot potential on Zerglings, 2 Zerglings, 3 Zerglings go down. He's gonna manage at home also. Now we're gonna try to save this adept to keep on having the one-shot potential. I think this run for your life, run Forest. Forest has died, sadly. So no Forest. So it means MaxPax kind of has to go home, and yeah, Zergling speed is finished anyway, so you kind of have to get the hell out of here because you will be in trouble. So now if you're a lower league player, by lower league I mean anything below pro gamer basically, because this is dangerous, I would advise you to complete this wall. MaxPax wants to play as greedy as possible because he knows he can get away with it. He knows he's not going to lose probes or anything because his control allows it, but please, you're probably not MaxPax, unless MaxPax is literally watching the video, which is probably not because he has better things to do than watching his own stream. Just close the wall before you expand, because usually it's just gonna cause some mayhem in your base and so on. MaxPax only optimizes as hard as he can because he relies on his control so much, and he knows he can trust his very fast young fingers, but don't be as crazy as him. If you're platinum, you're not gonna reap the benefits as much. So there's an overlord in the main. We're gonna warp in a stalker in reaction to that to actually get rid of it. Good pull away by laser. I think we should be able to get this queen. The queen's gonna inject before it leaves his world, her world I should say. So we only have one single adept to protect the third, which is not that many. A well-positioned adept is actually going to be able to defend that. MaxPax once again doesn't want to play with the new gateways. It just sticks to what he used to do before, which is to turn the gateways into actual warp gates. But he's just gonna delay his build. He accepts that it's worse than before. That's a very high testosterone way to approach things. That being said, he's going to pressure with 4 adepts, forcing his opponents to invest more into Zerglings and less drones. We have 4 gateways in total, and we're going to start the Stalker production. You have to be careful to not forget pylons, because once again your Nexus provides less supply, so you need actually 1 extra pylon compared to what you used to do before. Actually, Miko is spraying creep at the front. I think he's gonna get it. Yeah, he's gonna get a tumor. That's very nicely done. So once again, if you stay in the middle like that, you can threaten both locations, and by leaving your adepts in between the mineral patches, it becomes extremely difficult for the Zerglings to actually commit to them. And worst case scenario, you can bring your oracles along to try and protect your adepts if they were to be attacked. And by keeping presence at the front, it makes this counterattacks not as good, right? Because now MaxPax will actually shade in, and if it does not shade in, well, I mean, it means that the Zerg opponent has actually more than enough Zerglings at home, but more Zerglings means you have less drones. So yeah, actually Elijah is very committed when it comes to Zerglings. I would love to know his worker count. I would guess equal or maybe slightly lower than MaxPax, if I had to guess. But in exchange, he actually has a good map control, great map control, and he has more than enough units to deal with the Stalkers for now, because we know that MaxPax plus Stalkers and Oracles can be quite something at times, especially in this matchup. So I think, personally, I would attack towards the right, because this... actually, we need to deal with this little run by. This is annoying. Yeah, I like this reaction, because I think as MaxPax, you would attack the bases top right. I don't know if my camera is actually maybe showing the opposite side. I'm no YouTuber, I'm sorry. But because this hatchery on the top right has very narrow chokes, which is very good for stasis traps, because it forces Zerglings to clump up. And of course, since Stalkers are ranged units, little chokes is always going to benefit you against melee units, because they have less surface area to work with. So it makes sense to expand right there at MaxPax, because then you can attack the base at the north and protect your own base. So we're gonna blink in like madman, MaxPax. Well, I don't know what I'm saying. I think you can take on the fight. I'm not sure about that for a laser. I would love for him to bring the Zerglings home, because yeah, exactly, just losing Hydras for free for now. Bringing the drone to actually trigger the stasis trap, that's very well done. And once again, this little setup where you have one cannon, one battery, plus a little gap like this where you can place a Zealot or two, can actually make the defense much better for the Protoss player. Once again, every time MaxPax has an extra stasis trap to retreat to, so every time he can afford to be extremely aggressive with his Stalkers, because he knows he has a backup stasis trap to retreat to in case things go south. So literally south on this map actually. And every time he can recharge the oracles, he does so because, well, one more recharge is one more stasis trap, and you can keep on the pressure this way. You see all the Zerglings get frozen, which means now there's no buffer for the Hydras, which means the Hydras are gonna get maybe killed, and this is a very good news for the Protoss opponent. Man, his Micro is very fucking sick, man. It's actually very flawless. Be careful with the stasis trap. This is why you have a backup stasis trap. And now we're gonna blink in, aren't we? Yeah, exactly. Most of the Hydras are actually frozen. We're gonna keep on going. You gotta be careful because these Zerglings may have upgrades that I'm not aware of. But he's actually gonna blink in. You see, you can afford with being very aggressive in this matchup, especially when you've got the fingers of the packs. We're gonna go for a warp in the main, and this is looking very grim for Elaser, honestly. Like, this is extremely hard to keep up with the pace of MaxPax, because not only you need to be fast, but you need precision, because there are like stasis traps all over the place, and you want to step into them, and then there's the Blink Stalker Micro, and suddenly a Warp Prism shows up in the main, and it's very hard as the Zerg to actually keep up with that. Yeah, MaxPax doesn't have that big of a Stalker force, but the Hydra force has been reduced because of the constant trading. And now if you're a laser, your minimap is blinking everywhere. It's like the 4th of July for our American friends. But and these little exchanges are always in the favor of the player who mines the most, and in this case, MaxPax is mining the most. He's on 4 bases, soon to be 5. He just took a base at the bottom like this, and because the force of Elaser at the top right has been destroyed, and is technically on 3 bases, well, there's a 4th hatchery, but the drones were not mining, so it means that right now the income is in favor of MaxPax, and I think he's still trading pretty well overall. He's gonna keep on going. This guy is mad. This is what MaxPax does very well. He seizes as many opportunities as he can, and because his control is amazing, he always gets, well, not always, but most of the time he's gonna get the edge, and one interaction after another means that slowly but surely at the end of the game he gets the advantage and ends up getting the win. So he's going into Colossus as opposed to going into Storm. Maybe this is a new approach because of the new patch. I'm not exactly sure what's the reasoning behind it. You can see if you look at your minimap, MaxPax only has 4 gases, right? Despite being on 5 bases, so he has only taken the gases of 2 bases out of 5. So he's very mineral heavy, and of course High Templars are very expensive in terms of gas. So if you want to remain very mineral heavy, it makes more sense to go into Colossus. They burn a bit less gas. And you also have more gateways available because you don't need to warp in High Templars, right? Because you actually produce Colossus with the Robo, right? Kind of obvious. So bindings without speed are a bit underwhelming. You gotta be extremely careful about the Colossus on the left side. I think could be in trouble. Now he's gonna be able to save it barely. Also, one thing you need to do nowadays, you actually need to manually turn your gateways into warp gates, which is a bit more effort. I mean, you used to have to do that before, of course, but the Colossus, I think, should be able to... Ooh, what am I saying? I'm not sure, but it's blinking everywhere. Stuff happening everywhere. The Hydras are maybe overextending a little bit because there are Zealots coming from the bottom. And once again, MaxPax is probably the player who still is mining the most right now, although his economy has suffered a little bit. And you can see MaxPax is still taking a Zealot to try to send it as a counterattack because he knows that attention is so precious, and even 2 Zealots can ravage a whole mineral line if you're not paying attention for a few seconds. This is why it's so important to always keep on the pressure, and this is why it's also critical to have clear hotkeys, because if you're F2 addict, of course sometimes you kind of have to use F2 because that's the way it goes, right? But overall, if you send a run by and then there's panic and you F2, it means your run by is coming back home, and then you're missing the opportunity to actually deal damage on the other side of the map, right? So very important to have clear hotkeys. I'm not sure about fighting the Zealots with the drones. We could have perhaps evacuated them, but so Elaser right now, you see right now at this point, and again you need to assess in which position you are. The position of MaxPax is you have 2 Colossus and probably no Vipers on the menu because the economy has been too low on both sides to afford Vipers. Vipers are very gas intensive units. There's no gas on the 5th, there's no gas on the 4th, and Elaser has been pumping non-stop Hydras. So impossible to have Hydras, and if Hydras show up, well, I'm gonna look pretty silly, but I don't think it's gonna happen. And so the Colossus are gonna be extremely valuable, and this is probably now that you want to fight because no Vipers mean the Colossus actually have free reign over the Zerg army, and I think this is gonna be it. GG, well, oh my god. MaxPax doesn't care, he just plays the way he used to play before, and just sticks to the normal playstyle, quote unquote. Just you need to pay for the gateways, I suppose. I'm probably gonna get more of these videos because I really learn a lot through watching MaxPax, and I'm sure you do also. Don't want to make this video too long, so I'm gonna stop here. But if you like that, just let me know, and I'll see you around. Bye bye.